Ever ruined a perfect sunset by remembering a cringy thing you said in 2014? Your life isn't a series of mistakes. It's an abstract painting you're simply too close to see. It's time to stop punishing yourself for a bad plan when your heart was in the right place. In this episode of The Sidebar, we're decoding the philosophy of Jeremy Brunansky. We're examining the Kierkegaard Tax on our choices, the architecture of regret, and why your past failures might actually be your greatest blessings. It's time to re-examine the process, because the decisions you made, and the ones you didn't, are all painting the same canvas. Grab your coffee, your tea, or your wine. Welcome to Episode 8 of The Sidebar.
Today, we're taking a pretty hard look at something that you, the learner, have probably grappled with just this week, or, maybe even this morning.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we're talking about regret. You're tuning in because you really want to understand how our everyday mistakes and our messy pasts actually fit into the larger tapestry of human history.
Right, and trying to figure that out without getting completely bogged down in some spiraling existential crisis.
Exactly. And we've got you covered.
It is incredibly easy to get trapped in the noise of our own heads. But today, we're stepping back to look at something profoundly human. We're exploring how we process the past, how we handle those creeping everyday regrets, and ultimately, how we find our footing within the intimidating, massive scope of collective history.
Yeah, and we have a really compelling stack of source material to guide us through this. We're looking at two deeply philosophical blog posts written by Jeremy Brunansky.
Two very different posts.
Yeah, right, totally. The first one, from November 2013, is titled, Our Story, Our Impact, Our History. And then the second one, which was published a few months later in May 2014, is called 2020.
Both are fantastic.
They really are. And to ground these big ideas, we also have two striking visual anchors tied to the text. One is this photograph of a stunning sunset over Tempe Town Lake, and the other is a really evocative image of these rusted, decaying vintage cars sitting abandoned out in a desert landscape.
And our mission for this deep dive is to extract the thematic tissue connecting these two distinct reflections. Because on the surface, they're dealing with totally different scales of time.
Oh, for sure.
One is deeply personal and immediate, like that sting of a mistake you made yesterday. And the other is sweeping and historical. The centuries of human decisions that brought us here.
And by bringing them together, the goal is to help you find a real sense of connection and comfort in your own life story. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the deeply personal side of the equation. Let's look at that post titled 2020. The text sets the scene by describing this photograph of Tempe Town Lake at sunset.
It's a great image.
It is. Picture it right. The sky is painted in these soft, dusky hues. The water is perfectly still, reflecting the fading light. And there's an elegant bridge stretching across the horizon.
It really pulls you in.
It does. The writer talks about capturing this seemingly ordinary but deeply calming moment while just out for a walk. It establishes this core premise right out of the gate that life is simply a series of these moments.
It's a gorgeous setup. It deliberately lulls you into this state of tranquility. You're visualizing the still water. You're feeling the peace of just being present.
Yeah, it's very zen.
It is. And the post even notes how, years later, just looking at that picture brings back that exact calming effect. It proves the lasting power of a single peaceful fraction of a second.
But wait, holding on to that peaceful sunset image for a second, why does the text then intentionally shatter it?
Oh, the pivot.
The pivot. It goes straight into regret. It feels almost self-sabotaging to ruin a perfectly good memory of a lake like that. Just like that, the peace is gone, and we're forced to look at the things that keep us up at night.
It feels self-sabotaging, sure, but it's actually a brilliant rhetorical device.
Really? How so?
Because it perfectly mirrors how regret functions in the real world. You don't usually schedule time to feel regret.
No, definitely not.
You can be having a completely fine day, enjoying a sunset or having a quiet cup of coffee, and then suddenly, totally unprompted, your brain serves up a mistake you made 3 days ago.
The worst.
Your peace is instantly shattered. The text forces the reader to experience that jarring transition in real time.
That makes a lot of sense. And the text doesn't even dwell on grand, dramatic regrets. It lists these highly relatable, everyday examples that I guarantee you listening right now have experienced.
Oh, absolutely.
Like staying up too late when you have an early morning, spending way too much money at the store, overbooking your calendar.
Guilty of that one.
Right. Or making a promise to your boss that you know you can't keep, or promising your significant other something knowing they're going to end up disappointed. Or, and this one hits a little too close to home for me, agreeing to drive somewhere when gas is ridiculously expensive.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I definitely volunteered to drive a group of friends to the airport last week and immediately regretted it at the pump. My intent was to be a good friend, but my plan completely ignored my wallet.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
Those examples are so grounded, and they lead to a critical observation about human nature. The post suggests that we feel regret primarily when things fall outside of our control.
Right.
What's fascinating here is the core philosophical distinction the source makes, the profound gap between the intent and the plan.
So it's this theory that the failure that leads to regret usually happens when the heart is in the right place, but the plan itself is fundamentally flawed. Let's take your calendar example from the text, or my airport run. When you overbook your calendar, your intent is usually positive. You want to be helpful, you want to be a dedicated colleague, you want to show up for your family. The heart is entirely in the right place.
Right, but the plan, the actual physics of trying to be in 3 places at once is totally flawed.
It's mathematically impossible.
It is. The failure of the logistics is what creates the disappointment, which then metastasizes into regret.
It's a much more compassionate way to look at our daily fumbles. But the text doesn't let us off the hook completely, does it?
Not quite.
It brings in a quote from the Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard, written all the way back in 1855, and it's a heavy one.
Yeah, the Kierkegaard conundrum.
Kierkegaard wrote, "I see it all perfectly. There are 2 possible situations. One can either do this or that. My honest opinion and my friendly advice is this. Do it or do not do it. You will regret both."
It's incredibly bleak on the surface. Kierkegaard is essentially arguing that regret is the unavoidable tax we pay for making choices in a finite world.
A tax, yeah.
If you choose path A, you're going to mourn the unknown possibilities of path B. If you choose path B, you're going to mourn path A.
But isn't that just a recipe for total paralysis, though? If I'm going to regret it either way, why make a choice at all?
Well, choosing not to choose is still a choice, which you'll also regret.
Fair point.
But I don't think the goal here is paralysis. The post actually uses this to propose an active solution, or rather, an antidote to this inevitable regret. The text says it isn't offering a neat solution, but rather a question: why?
Asking yourself why you did the thing you're regretting.
Yes, calling on the reader to actively question the reason for their regret. By isolating the original intent of our actions from the failed outcome, we can unburden ourselves.
How does that work in practice?
If you look closely at your failed plan and you discover that your actions weren't selfishly motivated, that your heart was right even if the execution was a total disaster, then you shouldn't feel burdened by that heavy, punishing brand of regret.
So it's an active mental exercise in grace. If you made a hasty decision, but you did the best you could with the emotional or logistical tools you had in that exact moment, that shouldn't be a source of endless self-flagellation. Precisely. If forgiving our flawed daily plans is the first step to beating regret, the second step requires us to step way back. The second post, our story, our impact, our history, forces us to look at those individual moments of regret as just a tiny fraction of a massive historical timeline.
And it sets that tone immediately with a very grounding anchor. The post opens with a famous quote from Martin Luther King Jr. "We are not makers of history, we are made by history."
That quote completely reframes the conversation. It takes the paralyzing pressure off the individual while simultaneously connecting you to everyone else who has ever lived.
It zooms way out.
Way out. And the text uses a vivid metaphor to describe what it feels like to confront this collective history. It describes life as an abstract painting.
I love this part.
Imagine you're standing in a gallery, staring at a massive canvas that just has layer upon layer of assorted colors and shapes. The text points out that each layer reveals more shades than you previously thought.
Right.
And by the time you look at the whole finale, you might actually go cross-eyed trying to process it all.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that abstract painting represents the sheer, overwhelming complexity of human interaction and shared history.
It's a lot to take in.
When you first look at the collective timeline of humanity, or even just the timeline of your own community, it's dizzying. It looks chaotic. It's full of contradictory shapes and colors.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at first glance.
Exactly. But the text argues that to truly see the vision in that abstract painting, you can't just stare harder and stress yourself out. You actually need to relax. You have to take a moment and get to know those around you.
Because when you start paying attention to the people around you, the abstract shapes start to take form. The painting reveals shared experiences. You might spot something beautiful in it, or you might see an expression of deep pain or angst.
It stops being a chaotic mess and becomes a reflection of who we all are.
Which brings us to a profound paradox in how we interact with our own past. The text breaks down how completely contradictory human beings are about history.
We are very conflicted about it.
We really are. We actively look to it to find reason when we're struggling to comprehend our current direction. We hope to find comfort in it. We reassure ourselves with its past successes, yet we actively shy away from its failures. We cherish it, but we also fear it.
We want the good without the bad.
And the kicker, we never seem to learn from it, even though we study it incessantly. We treat our collective story like a textbook instead of a mirror.
A mirror is the perfect way to describe it.
Which brings me to the second visual anchor we have for this deep dive, the source image titled Desert History.
The cars.
The rusted cars. Let's really picture this scene. It's a bright, clear day. Blue skies, wispy clouds. In the foreground, there is this dry, sandy desert earth.
Typical striking desert scene.
Right. And sitting right in the middle of this landscape is a line of rusted, decaying vintage cars. They are completely abandoned. Their metal bodies are oxidized into these deep browns and oranges. Doors are hanging open. Tires are either gone or buried in the dirt. And right behind them, framing the entire scene, is a rugged, timeless mountain range.
It's a brilliant visual to pair with this philosophy. Those cars are a literal, physical snapshot of history.
They really are.
They were once shiny, new, and functional. They were someone's prized possession, a part of their daily routine, and probably the setting for their own daily regrets or triumphs. Now they're abandoned, but they haven't disappeared.
No, they're still taking up space.
They have permanently altered the landscape. They're rusting into the earth, essentially becoming part of the desert itself.
They don't just sit on the landscape, they are the landscape now.
Precisely. And that mirrors how our personal histories, our past actions, and our shared human history shape us. We are made by history, just as that desert scene is made unique by the presence of those decaying cars.
You can't just erase them.
You cannot separate the present environment from the relics of the past, sitting right in the middle of it.
So we have these two very distinct ideas on the table. On one hand, we have 2020, dealing with the micro-level anxiety of personal regret, the failure of our daily plans, and Kierkegaard's warning that choosing anything means regretting everything.
The micro view.
And on the other hand, we have our story, our impact, our history, dealing with the macro-level reality that we are just small layers of paint on a massive, chaotic, abstract canvas of human existence, shaped by forces and footsteps that came long before us. So what does this all mean? How do we actually synthesize this for you, the learner?
The shared DNA between these two posts is incredibly moving when you put them side by side.
It really clicked for me.
Fundamentally, both pieces are examining how the past dictates our present emotional state. Whether that past is a hasty personal decision you made yesterday or the collective human history of centuries ago, it's actively shaping how you feel right now.
They both deal with looking back.
Yes, but the ultimate takeaway comes from the end of the Our Story post. The text points out that when you realize the path you walk has been paved by the thousands of footsteps of those who came before you, both living and dead, you arrive at a vital realization. You are never alone.
Never alone. And that realization is the cure for the isolation we feel in the 2020 post.
It's the perfect remedy.
Think about how regret physically feels. It's incredibly isolating. When you're lying awake at night agonizing over how you overbooked your calendar or disappointed a friend, you feel like you are the only person in the world who has ever messed up that badly. It's a very lonely emotion.
It really is. But the Our Story post reminds us of the unspoken connection we all share. Recognizing that connection, knowing that billions of people before you have made hasty decisions, have had their hearts in the right place, but their plans fail miserably, alleviates that burden.
It takes the weight off.
It does. The shared human experience is the very thing that contextualizes your personal regret. It normalizes the human condition and shrinks your mistake down to its proper, manageable size.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text doesn't just leave this as a neat little philosophical bow. There's a clear call to action.
Yes, the reaching out.
Exactly. It explicitly encourages the reader to reach out and communicate with people, even complete strangers. Why? Because discovering a shared tale unites us. It's the shared experience in life that bridges the gap between our isolated, late-night anxiety and the grand abstract painting of history.
This raises an important question about how we view the timeline of our own lives. Toward the end of our story post, there's a powerful line stating that if history has taught us anything, it's that one experience won't end your story. It might bless it, however.
I love that line.
It's so good.
Yeah.
If we accept that, how does it force us to recontextualize our past mistakes?
It changes the entire framework. If one bad decision, one failed plan doesn't end your story, then that moment of regret isn't a final destination. It's just another brushstroke.
Just a layer of paint.
Right. And the idea that a mistake might actually bless your story, that's huge. Your regret might be the exact experience that teaches you the empathy you need to connect with a stranger later down the line. It blesses your story by making you more human, more forgiving, and more understanding of the flawed abstract painting we're all trying to navigate.
Which brings us full circle back to Kierkegaard.
Oh, right. The 1855 existential dread.
Exactly. But look at it differently now. If you're going to regret doing it, and you're going to regret not doing it, then the paralyzing fear of making the wrong choice loses its power.
Because there is no perfect choice.
There is no perfect choice. The goal isn't to avoid regret entirely. That's impossible. The goal is to understand your intent, forgive your flawed execution, and realize that your missteps simply join the thousands of footsteps of everyone else who has ever lived.
I think that's the perfect place to bring this directly back to you, the listener. Think about your own life for a second. The text explicitly states the hope that you see a great story within yourself.
We all have one.
We do. Maybe your journey has felt largely blessed. Maybe it's been an exhausting struggle. Or maybe, as the post suggests, you prefer to withdraw and just enjoy a quiet, private lifestyle. Whatever your specific path looks like, your individual 20/20 hindsight, your worries about saying the wrong thing or failing a plan is just one small, essential layer of paint in this massive, dizzying, abstract painting of shared history.
Absolutely.
You belong on the canvas just as much as anyone else.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, a question to ask yourself after you pause this deep dive.
Let's hear it.
If Kierkegaard is right, that we will inevitably experience regret no matter what we choose, and if the blog is right, that our story is ultimately just a reflection of a shared, messy human experience, does that mean our pursuit of the perfect plan is actually getting in the way of living a beautifully imperfect history?
Oh, wow. That is a fantastic point.
We spend so much energy trying to engineer a life with zero regrets. But maybe that effort is making us miss the beauty of the abstract painting altogether. We invite you to look at your most recent regret, not as a failure, but as a mandatory necessary layer of paint on your own abstract canvas.
That is definitely something to chew on. The pursuit of the perfect plan versus an imperfect history. Next time you're agonizing over a misstep, just remember, it's all just part of the painting. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and we'll catch you on the next one.